competition and competitiveness. That is going to be the topic of this episode of Chi Life. So today I am on North Head in Auckland, New Zealand, which looks out over the harbour here in Auckland. And you can probably see behind me that there are a whole lot of boats all heading out. They're all headed in one direction, maybe occasionally there's one going in another direction. And that is because they are going out to look at a competition. Now the competition that they're going to be looking at is some America's Cup yacht racing. So this is not the actual America's Cup, it's like a pre-tournament before the actual competition, which will be early next year. So the teams that are going to be in that event, they're all sort of testing themselves out against each other and testing their equipment and things like that. And actually yesterday I was out on the water as well. You'll have to excuse the noise, there's a helicopter going past. I don't know if I'll catch that, but they're heading out there as well. And yesterday I actually went out on a jet ski, on my brother-in-law's jet ski, and we went out to where they were racing, which is not far from here, just out in the harbour, and sort of had a little bit of a look at what was going on, and got up really quite close to the boats. I guess it's an unusual sort of an event in that these events rely so much on the equipment itself, which is these big boats, as well as being quite athletically demanding on the people who are doing the racing. And yeah, again, quite unusual for this sort of thing to be able to pull up, you know, almost alongside these boats when they weren't racing. When they're racing, they're further away in the distance, but you know, when they're not racing, they pull off to the side and you can kind of cruise right on by them, which was really interesting. Now, one of the things that is really interesting about this race today and about the America's Cup in general is that they are constantly changing the rules about what kind of boats you can use in the race, or what kind of boats you can use, and they change sort of classifications that your boat must fit within. And because of this, the America's Cup is well known for always pushing the edges of the current technology in sailing. I'm going to step off out of the sun for a little bit now. It's really quite bright and sunny out there and quite hot. And you'll have to excuse my camera angles today. I forgot to bring a selfie stick, which normally makes filming these vlogs a little bit easier. But yeah, one of the really interesting things with these races is, again, it's the technology that they use, and they're doing something really interesting this time. They are using a system of racing the boats which involves multiple foils. Now the foils are a piece of apparatus that goes underneath the water, and when the boat gets up to speed, it actually lifts it up out of the water. In some of the shots I took, you might be able to see that the boats are coming out of the water. Maybe not, because I think I was probably too far away to show you with my camera that too much. So what I'll do is I'll link some articles and some videos below that you can have a look at, that sort of tells you a bit about these foils. Now the introduction of using these foils at all is quite recent. I think about 10 years ago or less than that, when they first started using them in this racing, and you know, lifting a boat out of the water, so it's actually sitting in the air above the water, just the foil in the water, so that they have more speed. Quite a technological innovation. And now they've taken it even further where they're using multiple foils, and it looks really quite unusual. And you'll have to excuse some of my footage of those boats, not that great, but I thought I'd show you at least some of the shots I got. Not that easy to get good clear shots while sitting on the back of a jet ski and filming using your phone, which is through a waterproof bag on a lanyard, so I wouldn't drop it into the water. But you get a little bit of an idea of what I was looking at out there. So going out on the water to look at these yachts as they're racing, it was an interesting experience, and I thought, maybe there's a vlog topic in there. And particularly as, look, to be quite honest, I've had a hard time doing vlogs lately for a few reasons, some of the restrictions and things with lockdowns and things, and then just getting the momentum going again after that has been hard. So I thought, you know, I should probably make a vlog whenever I get the chance, whenever there seems to be a good topic. And the topic that I thought I'd talk about is competition, and also related to that, competitiveness. I find it interesting sometimes the different, sometimes really strong responses some people have to the very idea of competition. There are some people who just love any kind of competition, anything they do, they always want to make it into a competition. You know, they're always trying to do that, and you know, always be the best or whatever it might be. And then on the other hand, there are some people who are just really averse to any kind of suggestion even of competition. And I think overall it's one of those classic cases where I don't think either of those extremes are really all that healthy, but there is a middle way. And when we understand that middle way, we can really start to understand competition and competitiveness in a positive and useful way that really has a lot of benefits for us and for other people as well. You know, again, why are all these boats going out? Well, they want to see the competition. Why do people like to watch all kinds of different competition? You know, what is it about that we find interesting or entertaining? What creates that interest? To some degree, all of us actually have a vested interest in competition, because competition done well actually creates benefits for all of us. Sometimes, and I think this is where some of those people who have a real aversion to the idea of competition get it from. They think of competition as just creating winners and losers. And you know, who wants to make someone else lose? That's, you know, not a very nice thing, and have it all be about winning and losing. But good competition on a deeper level actually makes all of us winners, not losers. Makes all of us winners. We all actually get benefit from competition when it's done in a healthy way. And the America's Cup competition is an interesting example of this. One of them is actually just going past in the background there. I don't know if, can you see that focus there? Tiny little dot there and sort of over there. That is one of the America's Cup yachts going past. And so some of the benefit that we all get from this is the development in technology that comes from the competition and people constantly trying to improve so that they can, you know, do well in the competition and maybe beat the other team or win against the other team. Now, for most of us, you know, yachting, we may not have a lot of direct experience with yachting or think that we get a lot of benefit directly from yachting, but it's often surprising how these technological innovations can come from one area but actually end up benefiting many other areas. A classic example of this was, again, it was the space race. Now, that wasn't a formal competition, but this race back in the 60s to get into space. And that led to all sorts of technological innovations that spread into lots of other areas of life, and that benefit many of us even today. And these kind of benefits aren't restricted just to, you know, these kind of races or competition involving equipment and obvious technology like that. Even competition in terms of athleticism and things like that also benefit each of us in some ways that we may not be aware of. By athletes trying to push their limits, often they try to use things from every area of human endeavor to help them in that. And so we learn things about diet and nutrition, we learn things about anatomy and physiology and so on that have a direct impact on the competition at hand, but may actually also flow through into other areas of our life and give us other benefits as well. Another example of this that I think is pretty useful is actually in terms of martial arts. You know, in martial arts, well, part of the name is martial. So the nature of it is that it's about fighting to some extent. Of course, there's tons of other benefits from martial arts as well. You know, in terms of self-development and health and fitness and, you know, all these different things. But at its core, there's a martial or fighting element to it. So in martial arts, we learn all of these techniques, all of these methods, skills, tactics, strategies of fighting someone else, of dealing with violent situations and becoming very good at those violent situations. But as a well-balanced person who seeks harmony with the world around them, in doing that, do you want to hurt the people around you? Of course not. So how do you then develop confidence in those skills, or bring them to a high enough level of competency so that you could actually use them if you ever did need to use them? Well, one of the really good ways to do this is through competition. We set up formats where people can try out and use these skills where there are limits for safety placed upon them, so that they can test their skills, find them, hone them, refine them, improve on them, but in ways where the aim is not actually to harm the other person. The aim is actually, it's a cooperative aim. By entering into competition in a martial arts field, you're actually, in a sense, if you have this mindset, you're actually helping each other. By doing that, by competing hard against the other person, you're helping yourself to raise your level of skills, but you're also helping them. You're giving them a real challenge to overcome, which gives them the opportunity to learn and develop their skills further as well. And I think when we understand that aspect of competition, it allows us to have a really healthy attitude to it and to truly gain the most benefit from it. Yes, within a competition there will often be winners and losers as part of the nature of the competition. But overall, in a wider sense, everyone's a winner from having entered into that competition. The people competing, in a sense, both win from the ability to challenge themselves and develop themselves. And then in that even broader sense, people in the wider community also win from the developments, the improvements that may come out of that process of competition. Another simple example of this is actually this video I'm recording right now. Now, I'm not saying this is going to be an amazing example of video quality and sound quality, especially just being handheld and with a bit of breeze out there and so on. But even just a few years ago, it would have been very difficult to get this quality of image, and this is just with my cell phone, with the front-facing camera on my cell phone. And a big part of what causes this level of quite rapid innovation and development, improvement in technology and the things available to us, is that incentive of competition. Competition occurs in many ways. It's not just all sporting, you know, it's occurring in a subtle way in every area of our life. You know, in business, in the case of the cell phone, but in other areas as well. And so what does all of this have to do with Qigong? I think the main application is really just to maybe our attitude or understanding of our way of interacting with different situations that we may face. Because we'll have different roles at different times. Now, saying competition is occurring all the time doesn't necessarily mean that we always need to be competitive, always trying to necessarily do better than someone else. That's not necessarily the case. We can understand our role changes in different situations. Sometimes our role is simply to observe. Other times our role may be to support. And other times our role may be to be on the leading edge, trying to improve, trying to actually take a step forward And as part of that, sometimes that role may actually be creating the challenge for someone else to actually make that step forwards and develop things further. When we understand the dynamics of a situation, we can find peace within that situation, and we can understand how to act harmoniously within that situation. And I think this applies to all of us really, in relationship to competition, to understand what our role is and how to compete in a harmonious way. We talk sometimes about good sports and bad sports, you know, people who, and largely this is talking about someone who will compete harmoniously or not. And this actually applies to people on both ends of that spectrum that I talked about earlier. Those who want to compete all the time, you know, often aren't considered to be good sports because they're maybe being too competitive. They're not understanding the dynamic of a particular situation or how to operate harmoniously in that. But equally, those who refuse to compete, refuse to engage, often are also being bad sports and potentially stopping themselves and others from receiving that good and healthy benefit of healthy competition. Anyway, those are a few musings about competition and competitiveness. An opportunity to make a bit of a different vlog. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please like, comment, subscribe, share, all those sorts of things. Hopefully next time I won't be handheld, so the image quality and things will be a bit better. But I look forward to seeing you on the next one.